Chimwemwe, thank you so much for speaking to us on Africa Today. It's really good to connect with you from Cairo, Egypt. Let's talk about the main objective of the 6th Biennial Scientific Conference on Medical Products Regulation in Africa.
The main objective actually of the 6th Biennial Scientific Conference in Africa is to leverage on the gains that we have made in strengthening regulatory systems and harmonization in the regional economic communities for medical products, for the medical products in the continent, and link it to local production, ensuring that we promote local production of medical products on the continent, as well as facilitate procurement of quality assured products that are locally produced from our manufacturers.
So who are the organizers of this event?
So we have actually organized it from the African Union ourselves, taking leadership, the African Union Development Agency, AUD and Nepad, as well as the African Union Commission as our sister agency. But we are collaborating with the World Health Organization because issues of access to medical products, really, we benchmark them on standards that are set at the global level, and we partner with the World Health Organization in this convening. Of course, there are other partners that have supported us and the member states that have supported us, but these are the key and the main organizers of this event.
And what theme is it running under this year? I imagine that there have been a number of themes that it's run through over the last few years.
Well, we actually this year we focused on quite some significant themes, themes that are really critical in driving the agenda. As you may recall, we have had quite a number of challenges when it comes to access to medical products, and we have had themes that circulate around dealing with substandard and falsified medical products. But the main theme itself is strengthening regulatory systems so that they link us to advancing local production, as well as increasing access to medical products of good quality and technologies that the African people need. But the sub-themes really focus on different areas that are critical in the local manufacturing space, as well as the regulatory space, such as I said, dealing with issues of substandard and falsified medical products, issues around digitalization of the medical products regulation space to bring in efficiency and effectiveness, as well as also things that are dealing with the actual manufacturing and procurement itself, how we link it to the harmonization that we have done at the regional level to facilitate issues of local production. But I think one other critical one that I wanted to mention is that since we are now in a new ecosystem, in a new era where the continent has now the African Medicines Agency, we have also a sub-theme that focuses on the new regulatory ecosystem. What does it mean to the continent? What will happen? What do we expect at the regional, at the national, and at the continental level?
Now, coming out of COVID-19 a few years ago, I think just shy of 2 years, there were numerous challenges around procurement, around production, and intellectual property on certain medicines across the globe that didn't allow Africa to produce those medicines, let alone procure them. Are these some of the challenges that you're hoping to address at this conference?
Exactly. I think COVID-19 taught us quite a number of lessons, but I always say that COVID was just highlighting what was already there. You may recall earlier in 2001, there was HIV/AIDS pandemic. It really ravaged the continent. And you may recall at that time, even when ARVs started being accessed elsewhere in the world as a continent, we had challenges to access, and our people, died. And the situation played itself again during COVID-19 when we did not have access to the medical products that we needed, the basic ones that are already produced, but as well as those vaccines that were new, as you're saying, the IP issues. And I think it made us wake up as a continent to say, yes, we made decisions. You remember in 2005, we adopted the pharmaceutical manufacturing plan for Africa. But when COVID came, it gave us the same problems that we had that time. So COVID woke us up again and say, can we recommit? Can we renew our commitment to local production of medical products? So this conference is focusing on that. How do we then put in place actionable steps to ensure that we have an enabling environment to enable us to produce locally. And those products that we produce locally should be made accessible to the people that need them.
So the two parts to this equation, Chimwemwe, if we look at it, the one part is where there's a huge amount of research and development that has to go into creating our own medicines or offshoots of certain medicines on the one part, and then the other is where there is collaboration or purchase of intellectual property or some form of arrangements with those large pharmaceutical companies across the globe that are already making these medicines. So speak to us on those two issues and what the collaborations or conversations are.
Well, I will start with the first one, the one that you've talked about regarding product development, R&D that leads us into product development on the continent. You may recall that as African Union, there are also a number of commitments that have been made around R&D, and a number of health research is at the core. There was a commitment that we should ensure that we increase funding to R&D to the extent that a percentage of health financing must go to R&D. Of course, we've not been able to meet the commitments as a continent, which also gives us quite a number of questions. However, with the work that we're doing through the African Medicines Regulatory Harmonization Initiative, and as well as the African Medicines Agency, we are supporting the creation of an enabling environment and also doing advocacy for R&D that should lead to product development for products that are on the continent. Now, when it comes to clinical research, for instance, we are collaborating with our colleagues at the Africa CDC to ensure that we put in place systems and processes for coordinating clinical trials, for instance, because we can't talk about products that are targeting Africans if clinical trials are not being done for products that are in the pipeline targeting the African population. So the work that we're doing really is driving us towards that. And I think you've also then talked about tech transfer and linkages with international pharma to ensure that we facilitate technology transfer to the continent for us to be able to produce them. We know it's a difficult subject, and it's a subject that we started discussing a long time ago to take advantage of the TRIPS flexibilities that have been put in place. But of course, obviously, we are not able to because of a number of technicalities that are there in the system. But we have now a program within the AU, the Partnership for African Vaccine Manufacturing, that is being led by our colleagues at the Africa CDC, that is driving engagement with international pharma, that is driving engagement with different partners to help us, so to enable us do technology transfer to local manufacturing. Currently, I think a number of deals are being made through the Partnership for African Vaccine Manufacturing. For instance, we have some partners that have made deals with the government of Rwanda. We saw the BioVac situation in South Africa during the time of COVID-19 vaccine manufacturing, that we were able to also do tech transfer to company in South Africa for them to be able to produce. So these are some of the successes, and we want to build on them to see how then do we really, in the regulatory space, also create an enabling environment for this tech transfer to happen. So that is our role, and these are some of the things that this conference actually focused on.